Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something I think is really foundational, cultivating extreme self-discipline. We've pulled together some fascinating sources looking at strategic leadership like Navy SEALs, but also merging that with, the practical science of building habits.
Yeah, and that mix is crucial. Because discipline isn't just about, gritting your teeth, nor is it some moral virtue you either have or don't. Our sources frame it as a kind of superpower. It's really the bridge between having goals and actually getting them done.
The superpower, okay.
It's that internal victory. Plato said it thousands of years ago, right? The first and best victory is to conquer self. That still holds up.
Okay, conquer self sounds pretty intense.
Yeah.
What's the payoff for people listening? We usually think discipline means, being miserable.
It feels counterintuitive, I know.
Yeah.
But the research actually points the other way. Discipline often leads to more happiness, more fulfillment. People with good self-control, they tend to be happier because they're not constantly battling their impulses. They just decide.
More decisive, less inner conflict.
Exactly. When they decide something matters, starting that business, being truly present with their kids, they tend to follow through. They feel more in control of their lives, less like they're just reacting or procrastinating all the time.
So it's not about suffering for success. It's more like using structure to achieve things you genuinely care about.
Yeah.
And that, in turn, stops the pain of not doing them.
You've got it. That's the reframe. Yeah. So our mission here is to get past the myths, look at the mindset shifts needed, and give you some really powerful practical steps to build that self-control without feeling, totally overwhelmed.
All right, let's dig in. Where do we start? The foundation seems to be motivation, finding that why. What's the first, maybe uncomfortable step the sources point to?
It really begins with some radical self-honesty, particularly about pain. See, most of us kind of ignore ongoing problems, or we try discipline half-heartedly, which just sets us up to fail and feel worse.
There.
Right. The real spark, the motivation often comes when you finally admit, my lack of discipline is actually hurting me. It's causing self-inflicted pain.
Oof. Realizing you're the source of the problem.
Exactly. It's that moment. The first big mental shift is deciding, with real intention, okay, I'm going to stop hurting myself like this to make life, less worse. Once you accept that avoiding the hard thing is actually more painful in the long run than tackling it, then you've got real fuel. Okay,
so you have that painful why. Step one then becomes self-awareness. We know our strengths usually. What's the harder part of self-awareness we need?
Owning the flaws, and I mean specific flaws, the actual behaviors, not just I procrastinate, but what you do instead. Is it scrolling social media for hours? Is it putting off that tough conversation, that pile of paperwork? You have to name the specific things you turn to or avoid.
The sources had this really striking example, didn't they? About a Navy SEAL candidate facing actual physical limitations, bad eyesight, allergies.
Yeah, things most people would see as fixed, a fixed mindset, right? Well, I guess I can't do this. But this individual didn't. They did an honest assessment. Okay, bad eyesight. They saved up and got LASIK. Lung capacity issues from asthma and allergies. They trained like mad to improve it.
Wow.
They didn't see the weakness as who they were. They saw it as a tactical problem to be solved. That level of honest self-assessment is, it's strategic.
That's a powerful way to look at it. It's about adaptation, not just brute force. Which brings us to maybe the trickiest mindset piece, willpower. We hear constantly it's limited, like a muscle that gets tired.
That's the standard thinking, yeah. But some of our sources challenge that directly. They suggest your belief about willpower might actually shape your reality. If you deeply believe you only have X amount of willpower and it runs out by mid-afternoon,
then it probably will. You'll act accordingly.
You might subconsciously make sure you don't push past that limit you've set.
But hang on, isn't that just a recipe for burnout? Telling people willpower is unlimited, how do we square that with, reality?
It's less about suddenly becoming superhuman and more about removing a self-imposed limitation, an excuse almost. Thinking of willpower as unlimited is more about mental toughness, like setting a stretch goal. It removes the easy out of, I'm just too tired, or I don't have the energy.
So you acknowledge the feeling of being tired, but you don't let it be the absolute stopping point you thought it was.
Exactly. You push that perceived limit just a little, day by day. You realize the ceiling was more mental than physical. It ties right into that Stoic idea from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You can't control everything that happens, but you can control your response, your engagement.
Okay, the mindset is crucial. Radical honesty, strategic self-awareness, and challenging that limited willpower belief. Now, let's get practical. Setting things up for success. Environmental design.
Yeah, this is huge. Basically, engineering your surroundings so discipline is the easier path, or at least procrastination is harder.
The remove temptation step. Oscar Wilde. I can resist anything except temptation. The sources say, well, don't try to resist it, just get rid of it.
Pretty much. It's classic out of sight, out of mind, but applied seriously. Want to eat better, don't rely on willpower every time you see cookies, get the cookies out of the house, need to focus, turn off the phone notifications, silence it, put it in another room.
It's not weakness, it's strategy. Save your energy for the actual work.
Exactly. Don't waste willpower fighting tiny, constant urges. Use it for the main task. And that focus connects to the next point. Clarity and priorities. Our sources were really strong on this, especially warning about having too many goals.
Yeah, the idea that if you have 10 priorities,
you actually have 0 priorities.
Yeah.
It's true. People who execute, whether it's elite teams or successful entrepreneurs, they are ruthless about focusing on the main thing. They make a clear plan, often time-bound, and sometimes use a simple mantra or phrase to keep them locked onto that mission. Everything serves that one primary goal.
okay, focus is key. But big goals can still feel overwhelming, which leads us to the power of small actions, right?
Yeah.
Where habit science meets strategy.
Yes. Discipline isn't magic. It's a learned behavior. Like any skill, it needs daily practice, repetition, until it becomes more automatic, more habitual. And the way to overcome that feeling of this goal is too huge, baby steps. There's that Navy SEAL saying again, eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Could you give some really concrete examples like the first bite?
Sure. If getting fit feels impossible, don't aim for an hour workout day one. Commit to maybe 10, 15 minutes. Just light activity. The win is doing it daily. Want to improve sleep. Don't suddenly try to go to bed 2 hours earlier. Start with 30 minutes earlier. Small, consistent wins build momentum and belief.
These small wins train your brain. And this links to something called discomfort training. We tend to run from hard stuff, right? Finances, the difficult project, straight to YouTube or games.
That avoidance of discomfort is like the engine of modern procrastination for so many people. So if you want to build discipline, you have to consciously, intentionally start pushing into that discomfort. Just a little. Start the hard task for 5 minutes. Look at the scary spreadsheet.
The goal isn't to love it, but to realize it won't kill you.
Exactly. You prove to yourself, okay, that was uncomfortable, but I survived. It builds resilience for bigger challenges down the road.
And there's a specific technique to structure this practice. Interval training.
Yeah, it's a great structured way to practice focus. You decide on a task, you set a timer short, like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15, 20 max. And for that time, you do only that task, nothing else. When the timer goes off, take a real break, then maybe go again.
It trains you to start to push through that initial resistance.
And crucially, it helps you notice the urges. Check email, look at phone, without immediately acting on them. You just note them and return to the task.
Okay, noticing urges without acting. How do we strengthen that muscle, especially when we're deep in work and the urge to quit feels really strong?
There's a powerful technique, kind of building on intervals. You designate a time block where you can do only the task or absolutely nothing. The source cited the writer Raymond Chandler's system. His rules were simple. Rule A, you don't have to write. Rule B, you can't do anything else.
So write or stare at the wall.
Pretty much. It makes the alternative, just sitting there being bored, less appealing than actually doing the work. More importantly, it forces you to just sit with the urge to escape. You observe it, feel it, but you don't act on it. And that observation strips the urge of its power over time.
Okay, that's about managing the moment. But we also need to plan for rough patches.
Yeah.
Let's talk contingency planning or implementation intention, as the psychologists call it.
Right. This is about having a pre-planned response for a specific challenge you know is likely to come up. And it's crucial, this isn't planning to fail in a negative way. It's not a lame backup plan.
It's strategic course correction.
Exactly. You anticipate. If I miss my morning workout because the meeting ran late, then I will do a 15-minute bodyweight routine right before dinner. You write the script before you're in the moment, tired, and likely to make a bad choice. It preserves self-control because the decision is already made.
Makes sense. But look, even with the best plans, setbacks happen. Failure happens. How do the sources suggest we reframe failure, possibly even see it as a victory?
It sounds wild, but yeah. Failure is a victory in the sense that 1, you actually tried. You took action. 2, and this is key, you learned something. Failure gives you incredibly valuable data about what didn't work. Was the plan too ambitious? Did you lack support? Did you try it at the wrong time of day?
So don't wallow, analyze.
Precisely. Forgive yourself quickly. Guilt and anger just stall progress. Then find the root cause. Ask the 5 whys. Why did I skip the gym? Because I was tired. Why was I tired? Because I stayed up late. Why did I stay up late? Keep digging.
That reminds me of the anecdote you mentioned earlier, the SEAL candidate who didn't get selected initially.
Yeah.
His response wasn't despair.
Not at all. 0 wallowing. He treated it immediately as tactical feedback. Okay, what were the weak points? What do I need to train harder on? He made a plan, requested a transfer to a different team to get the right experience, and focused entirely on the next attempt.
Just immediate, focused action on the next step.
Violent execution of the plan, as they'd say. Don't let the emotion derail the mission.
That resilience is incredible. Okay, last piece. Support. We can't always do this alone. Finding coaches, mentors, what kind should we look for?
The sources stress finding people who give honest, constructive, sometimes even painful feedback. Real experts, people committed to growth, they actively seek that out. They pick coaches who aren't just cheerleaders, but who will challenge them, push them, and prepare them for the next level, not just praise their current one.
Tough love, basically.
You could say that. And it's not just paid coaches. The material talks about family, friends, online groups. The key insight there was about vulnerability.
Right, that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it actually builds connection.
Yeah, admitting you're struggling with discipline or asking for help, it makes people trust you more, relate to you more. It often speeds up progress way more than trying to gut it out completely alone.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then.
Yeah.
What we've unpacked today shows self-discipline isn't some fixed trait. It's learned, it's strategic. It's built on what? Clear vision, those small daily actions, and real resilience when things go wrong.
Absolutely. You cultivate it. You combine that strategic mindset from high performers with the practical psychology of habit formation, diligence, mindfulness, planning. But we want to leave you with one final thought, something a bit provocative.
Oh, what?
We've talked a lot about doing this for yourself, your goals, your happiness, and that's important, vital even. But some of the sources hinted, quite strongly actually, that the most powerful motivation often comes when you focus on others. Think about helping aging parents, mentoring someone, doing work that genuinely serves your community or contributes something meaningful. When things get really tough, when your personal motivation flags, focusing on how your discipline and success impacts others, that can be a much deeper, more resilient wellspring of fuel.
So the question for the listener is,
where does your strongest motivation truly come from? Are you tapping into that potentially huge source of fuel that comes from serving something larger than just yourself? It's something to think about as you take these steps, not just to define your goals, but to actually, finally, conquer yourself.